Good evening, doctor.
Good evening, Murthy, Guru. Both of us are ready.
Oh, very nice. Inniki or small nice topic about Shiva.
Yes. We know that. And I sent it to some of my friends in Chennai also.
Oh,
They also will be joining. Yes. So.
Very nice of you, sir. Very nice.
Hello, Guru.
Hello, Vasanti.
Yeah.
Vasanti is voiced with Prashant's picture.
That's because he's the host and I'm not a host.
Correct.
இல்ல அவருக்கு வீட்ல நான்
Doctor, good evening.
Okay, Kumar.
Hi, Guru.
How are you?
Oh, very well, Guru.
How are things going on?
Sorry?
How are things going on?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
How are things going on?
Yeah, it's going well, very well, very well.
Good. I don't know who's that child playing there.
Lot of noise.
Lot of noise. Hello. Hello. Hello, am I clear?
Yeah, clear, Guru.
Okay. I just wanted to tell that particular person to mute and talk. Hello. I don't know who it is. Hello, somebody is talking there with the child. Can you kindly mute and talk?
Yeah, I think it's clear now.
Yeah, it's clear.
I think it's somebody's iPhone.
I don't know. Not iPhone or.
It's a person on Rotary Metropolis. They are just unmuted just now.
Okay. I don't know who it is.
That would have been my phone, Gurus. I think
Oh.
by mistake I put it on sound.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm out somewhere, so that's why there's a lot of noise.
Okay.
Who's a child, by the by?
They're my housekeeper's children. So we are going for a
is
walk.
it? Okay.
Okay.
Doctor, I met your granddaughter in my office a couple of weeks back.
Why did she come there?
Yeah, Ram's daughter.
Yeah.
எனக்கு தெரியல. I was sitting in my office.
I see.
So this pretty girl walked into my office room.
Is for a photograph or something?
Yeah. She's applying for some visa or something like that. Yeah. அதுக்குள்ள ராம் phone பண்ணாப்ல.
Oh, okay.
So I had a long I brought her home to introduce her to Geeta and all that.
Oh, wonderful. How nice. Okay, great. Well, everybody wants to go after the schooling here. They want to go
Yeah.
study.
Yeah, she was telling me.
I think they want to go outside India.
I think she's pursuing CA, is it?
Pardon me?
Is she pursuing CA?
No, she wants to do law.
No, law. Correct. Yes, I remember. Correct. Yeah, she was telling me that.
Her brother is already in Jindal doing law.
Yeah.
For the last 2.5 years.
Yes.
Join him and do law.
Yeah. She told me. I remember that now. Yeah.
That comes from their mother's family. Her grandfather was a judge and her grandmother was a lawyer.
Okay.
Family lawyers.
So nobody wants to follow you.
No, nobody. Nor am I sort of encouraging them.
I know.
It's becoming tougher and tougher.
I know. That's up to them. They have to decide.
Exactly. Anyway, today they decide. They don't look at you and ask your opinion. They decide themselves. Good. It's good.
Wait, has she gone?
No, she's writing the exam. +2 examinations she's doing now.
Okay.
Only by the, she'll get the results sometime in June, July, and then only she has to decide.
Okay. A couple of days back, I spoke to SVA. It was his wedding anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Mundanathu nenikiren. Mundanathu. Dr. Sudha, good evening.
Good evening.
Everybody இருக்கீங்க?
Good. So far, so good. Cross 3 waves.
எங்க உங்க பொண்ணை பார்க்க வரலையா குருமூர்த்தி வீட்டுக்கு?
நீங்க எல்லாம் பாத்துக்க மாட்டீங்களா?
அது சரிதான்.
பொண்ணு இங்க வந்துருச்சு, அதனால இங்கேயே பாத்துட்டேன்.
Oh, I see.
Good evening, doctor.
Good evening, Guru.
I'm seeing you after a long time. How are you?
I know I've been having some meeting or the conference or the other on Sundays, so
Okay.
my loss. I lost listening to you for a couple of times, but I did attend Mr. Nagasami's
Correct. I saw
tribute.
you there.
Jay walk Kalambiacha.
Enama?
Walk Kalambiacha.
I'm getting ready.
Once Geeta joins, he'll hand it over and go off.
Rabbi walk poita, Geeta will sit down and listen peacefully. Madras varli Ajay.
Illama Ramana Rachi vandu. Long time. Yeah.
What happened to Satish's brother? They sorted out?
Yes. The wedding was done in Mahabalipuram or somewhere. Okay. They have gone back to US.
Oh.
That is long back, right? Over 2-3 weeks back.
Last month it was.
Yeah.
End of November. Yeah. How's Coimbatore after the elections?
Yeah, it was a surprise. We never expected this because Coimbatore
Money
always
played. And
Coimbatore always used to be.
I mean, they were talking about thousands and lakhs.
யாரை
Playing in
கேட்டாலும்
Coimbatore.
எங்க வீட்டுக்கு 4000 வந்தது 5000 வந்துங்கற நம்ம வீட்டுக்கு 1000 கூட வரல.
They know pretty well you.
Everybody says, I tell you, I was surprised.
What are you saying? 1000, 2000.
In spite
I read in one of the magazines, they were giving some 8,000 to 10,000 per vote. And there were family with 4-5 people. You know, they could make money, redeem their pawn jewelry, pay their loans off. All this was mentioned.
In spite of so many vigilance and police and all going around.
Nothing. Openly done. If I give something, the next party gives something. It was openly done.
Hey, Kumar.
Yeah, doctor.
The money seems to have come in 2 containers only.
I know. But surprising, doctor, there is no raid, nothing happening, and you know.
It's their government. What's the question of raids?
I swear. எனக்கு தெரிஞ்ச நிறைய பேர், all very well-to-do people, they say that எங்க வீட்டுக்கு 4000 வந்தது, 5000 வந்தது, 8000 வந்தது. They just openly say that.
எங்க வீட்டு பக்கம் ஒருத்தர் கூட candidate did not come for canvassing also. None of the candidate came.
Yeah.
Only some of these people carrying the flags, they walked in and distributed some notice and all that.
Yeah.
Not the candidate.
Yeah, unusually same case in our case or cross control yarume varla. We didn't get that coupon also, you know. So Geeta and me, we went early morning and showed our voting ID card and got the little coupon, went and voted and came back. Nobody came for canvassing.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi Geeta. You're unmute panama. கேட்க மாட்டேங்குது.
Hi.
Yeah.
How are you?
Fine.
That's Geeta.
She's coming.
Okay.
என்ன குரு இன்னைக்கு எல்லாம் ரொம்ப கம்மியா இருக்கு, 11 பேர் தான் வந்திருக்காங்க.
தெரியல, I don't know. Probably COVID situation has eased and everybody has got more programs and we'll have to think of it whether we should have it on a Sunday or anything. And for the past few meetings, I've been seeing this. I don't know whether we should either discontinue it or looking for an alternative.
No, but I did see a lot of confirmations, in the WhatsApp group.
But unfortunately, WhatsApp group confirmation and they still need a reminder or else it's too early in 6 o'clock. Still the sun is on. And I don't know.
It's okay. The Nani has walked in. Maybe give it another 10 minutes.
Guru, it's 6:10. Should you start now or how do you want to do it?
It's only about 12 people.
Yeah, I think wait for some more time.
Just give me 5 minutes. We'll wait for another 5 minutes, Vasanthi, and then just think of it. Hmm?
Okay.
Jay, good evening.
Hi, Nani. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, Nan.
Hi, Guru.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine, Nanik. Somehow it is nice to see that we have crossed almost 45 meetings in the past
Span of
2 years. 2
2
years.
years.
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
It's good to see that went on for 45 minutes.
Absolutely.
Meetings. And I also, and still there is so much of topics, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. It will go on. You can't stop it. It is. See, people are coming in, Guru. Don't get.
No,
discouraged.
not. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm telling. Lot of topics are there still there
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see.
Guru,
See, I was just thinking rather. Children, doctor.
excellent program. I don't think you should ever think in terms of discontinuing. No.
I know.
No. இல்ல வேற டைமிங் ஏதாவது மாத்தோமா என்ன அப்படின்னு நினைச்சேன்.
It's the ideal time because you don't want to get it too late also.
அதான் that's what summer has set in. கொஞ்சம் என்ன சூரியன் நல்லா பளிச்சு இருக்கிறதுனால ஒண்ணு. There are a lot of topics which I wanted to do something about Madhya Pradeshல இருக்கக்கூடிய old temples.
Maybe because it's today Sunday, because
Hmm.
of Sunday, maybe some of them come, they have not come, I feel.
Then we have a lot of temples to be covered under Pallava region, which I have not done till today. So plenty of things are there in that. Then I want to talk about Buddhist monuments of India. Then you have a lot of so many other things which is coming up. So I don't know. Wait and see. One
Guru,
by
you
one
should,
we'll take it.
Once explore the details about the Padmanabha Swami temple in Trivandrum.
The Padmanabha Swami temple, I can talk very well because I have got the book, everything. Unfortunately, I cannot support with the pictures because
Okay.
the picture shooting is not there.
I
See,
see.
it is such a lovely thing. I've read about it, I've seen about it and all that. But unfortunately, none of the Kerala temples we are able to talk because we are not allowed to shoot pictures there.
You don't have supporting pictures.
No, yeah, supporting pictures. See, when you have the supporting pictures, it's explained, half
I
explained.
swear. Yeah.
Then me talking about it and trying to put something into your mind.
Yeah.
Visual representations are far better. So you can immediately get into the subject very easily.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Kerala temples, I'm not able to talk about that is only because of this, because we don't see the maximum you get is the outer view of the temple, and whether it's Vadakanadan or Tiruvannamalai, everything looks the same.
Yeah. I know.
So you
Correct.
can't make out much of a difference in to talk about it.
In fact, for that matter, there's so much to talk about Guruvayur and all that.
Guruvayur, of course, so much. See that what Guruvayur or any temple like that, those things we talk about it. It's more of a religious content, and that's what we have to talk about it. Architecturally, not much. One.
Yeah.
Next thing is that we don't have supporting pictures. That's the biggest problem with this thing. Even when I first gave my lecture on Tirupati,
Yeah.
it did not have any
Much of pictures.
supportive
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
I drew all those sketches and gave it in an OHP
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah.
After that, a lot of things have come up, and let's see. We'll wait and see what is Ishwara Iksha.
Hi, Johnny.
Hi Jay, hi Guru.
Hi, Johnny. Coming in late.
Yeah, you can see he just woke up. Fresher இருக்காரு ஆளு.
He has got a photographic mind in every angle. Oh my God.
The Sunday, most of them, are relaxing. So probably this is the time, 6 o'clock, they get up after the siesta.
Guru, we are 16 people. Should I mute everybody and you will unmute and start?
I think so.
I think 1 minute. Okay, you can do that.
I've done the share screen also.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay.
You have to unmute.
We'll do that. Yeah. Vagasthava sambrukto Vagatsa Prativrittite Jagata Pitaram Vande Parvati Parameshwaram. உலகெல்லாம் உணர்ந்து ஓதற்கரியன் நிலவுலாவும் நீர்மலமேனியன் அலகில் சோதியன் அம்பலத்தே ஆடுவான் மலர் சிலம்படி வாழ்த்தி வணங்குவோம். With this prayer to the father and the mother of this universe, Jagata Pitaram Vande, Parvati Parameshwaram. They are united together. They are the father and the parents of this world. Just as the word and the meaning, which cannot be separated, they are united. With this wonderful verse of Kalidasa, we go into this presentation of Maheshwara. This presentation is going to be about Shiva and his Rupams, different types of forms, aspects, and manifestations of Shiva, with the Puranic touch to it and all that. Not much of sculptural values and architecture that we are going to discuss about it, but it's going to be basically understanding what is Shiva and how many forms of Shiva are there, or the major forms of Shiva that we would like to know about it. Shiva means it's an auspicious one. Shiva, the meaning of Shiva is auspicious one. Shiva is also known as Mahadeva, or the greatest god. Mahadeva. He is the Deva, the greatest among the gods. So he is called as Mahadeva. He is also known as Rudra, the destroyer of evil. Shiva is also known as Ishwara. Ishwara means the protector who saves the life. So he is Ishwara. Shiva is the supreme Lord who is responsible for the creation, protection, and the transformation of this entire universe. So Shiva is all in one. Shiva is one among the Trimurtis of Brahma, Vishnu, and Ishwara, Shiva. So along with the Trimurtis, he is considered as the main god in our Hindu system. There are both benevolent and fearsome depictions of Shiva seen in our scriptures. In the benevolent aspect, Shiva is depicted as an omniscient yogi who lives in the very aesthetic life in Kailasha. And he is also shown as a normal man, a normal householder with his wife Parvati and his two children, Ganesha and Skanda. In his fiery aspect, he is often depicted as a fearsome person who is destroying the demons, and that time he takes the role of a Maharamurti. Shiva is also known as the Adi Yogi and regarded as the patron of yoga, dhyana, and all the fine arts. He is the person or the patron for all these things. So Shiva is multifaceted. The Satarudriyam of Shukla Yajur Veda is in praise of Shiva, which describes him in many forms. Shiva's Rudra Paranam, explains the different forms of Shiva. There are many thousands of forms in which he has been explained throughout, as the smallest thing and as the biggest, the mightiest thing. So, may I request kindly to mute, please? All the participants to kindly mute. May I request all the participants to kindly mute? Shiva is praised as the sun, the rising sun. In Rudra, it is said as Bablu Sumandara. The Bablu is the rising sun, which is red in color, bright, energetic, and very powerful. So Shiva is praised as the sun in the Satarudriyam. He is also said as a tall tree, which describes the nature. Shiva is nature. It is a Vrikshebhyo. Vrikshebhyo. Vriksha means big tree. Vrikshebhyo, Vrikshamadipyasyamo namaha. It comes so. Vriksha is also, that is the nature, is also said as Shiva. He is also known as Kabardin. Kabardin is one person who's got the matted locks or plenty of hair all around his head. So the Kabardine, he is known as Kabardine. And he's also, in the same verse, very next word, he said as Yuktakeshaya. That's one who has shaved all his hair. That's a plain shaven head also. So Shiva is shown as one who's got the matted locks and also completely shaven head. So this is the contrast of Shiva which has been given. He is also referred as Sabapati. Savebhyo Sabapatibhyas-chabo namaha. He says Sabapati is the head of a gathering where people come to him for advice and seek all his knowledge, everything. So he is the heading of a Sabha or an assembly of people. So he is the Sabapati. So Shiva is also referred in Satarudriyam as Apagalpaya. Apagalpaya, the word Apagalpa means that fetus which is only a few days old inside the uterus. I mean, the womb. A fetus which is only few days old inside the womb is such a small thing. Shiva is that. So he represents the creation there and he is known as Apagalpaya. He is also referred as Karmari in his Kula. Karmari is the person who makes the idols, the sculptures and so on. So that considered as a very great profession, and Shiva is a Karmari by Kula. And he is also known as Vishwapati, the one who heads the Vishwa, the entire universe. So Vishwebhyo Vishwapatibhyascha namaha. He says, so he is the one heading the entire universe. So this way, different forms and aspects of Shiva is explained in this beautiful verse of Satarudriyam in the Yajurveda. Iconographical attributes of Shiva are seen in all the pictures, with matted locks tied up and some matted locks flowing, in which he has a crescent moon and decorated with snakes and wildflowers and skull and so on. So Shiva's also got this holy Ganga, which is seen flowing from his matted locks. There's a sarpa, which is tied around his neck, which has got a raised hood. So this is the iconographic attributes that we see of the Shiva in general. He's also seen with Patra Kundalas and Makara Kundalas, all with Rudraksha malas all around his neck. And he's also seen very prominently with his third eye on his forehead. And Bhasma is smeared all over his body. Bhasma, that is the Vibhuti, is seen all over his body. This Vibhuti could be the Bhasma created out of carbon, or it could be the Bhasma of the cremated body. So whichever you take it, to say that everything goes back to Shiva is represented with the Bhasma that he applies all over his body. He wears a tiger skin around his waist and is seen holding a Trishula and Damaru. These are all the iconographic aspects of Shiva that we see in many of the pictures and the sculptures that we come across. Shiva is manifested in three different forms. That is the Rupam, the Arupam, and Rupa Arupam, or the abstract form. Rupa Arupam is an abstract form. Shiva is always manifested in these three different forms. When it comes to the Rupam or the Shakalam, he's seen as Maheshwara or Rudra and worshipped in that form. When it comes to Arupam or Nishkalam, he is seen as a formless God. He is worshipped as Shiva, the formless, the Shakti, the formless, the Nada, and the Bindu. So Shiva is also worshipped in the Nishkala Rupam. And Rupa Arupam, or the Sakala Nishkala Rupam, or the abstract form, Shiva is worshipped as Sadashiva. And that Sadashiva worship is done through the Linga, the form, abstract form of Linga, or what you call the Lingakaram, is the main form of Shiva, which is worshipped in all the temples. And that Lingakaram represents Shiva as the Sadashivam. Now, what is Sadashivam? Linga literally means a mark or a sign or an emblem. It is a representation of the formless Shiva, and this Linga is identified with the supreme Brahman or the greatest Brahman, which is there. So this Lingakaram is the identification of the Brahman. Linga Purana states Shiva is formless, without a color, without a taste, without a smell, and that's beyond the words and or the touch or the feeling. This Lingakaram is one such abstract representation of Shiva, which you see here in all the temples, and it's worshipped in households also. All these are seen in the representation of Shiva Linga, which is under worship. Linga also represents the Purusha and the Prakriti, the union of Purusha and Prakriti, which denotes creation. Linga is also the manifestation of Panchabhutas, Appu, Teyu, Vayu, Prithvi, Vayu, and Akasham. All the Panchabhutas are represented in this Shiva Linga form. Lingam also represents the Trimurtis of our Hindu manifestations of Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu together in one form. Now, what is Linga? The worship of Linga originated from the famous Rigvedic or the Atharva Veda Samhita, which sings in praise of the Upastamba, or the sacrificial post, which is a post of fire. In that hymn, the description of the stamba is said to be that one which does not have a beginning nor the end. It is just a shaft of fire that existed. And that is what is said as the Shiva Rupam or the Linga Karam. The Linga is also the representation of the shaft of fire that emerged. When Shiva stood as a shaft of fire, Brahma went to see his head in the form of a swan, and Vishnu went down to see his feet in the form of a boar. And there, nobody could see the beginning or the end of that shaft of fire. And that shaft of fire which stood there as a pillar is what is Linga is represented as Lingodbhava, and that shaft of fire is also called as the Lingakaram. And Shiva's Linga originated to represent him as the shaft of fire. Now, lingams are of many different forms. In India, we have 12 such lingams, which is called the Jyotir Lingams. The Jyotir Lingams are 12 in number, and they are spread across our country, as you see in this beautiful picture. We have 12 Jyotir Lingams. Only 2 of these Jyotir Lingams are there in South India. The major lingams, 3 of them are there in Maharashtra, 2 in Gujarat, 2 in Madhya Pradesh, 1 is in Jharkhand, the third one is in UP, and the last one is in Kedarnath. All the 12 Shiva Lingas, which are the self-manifested form of Shiva, is considered as the Jyotir Lingam or the greatest kshetrams for Shiva. And by the grace of Shiva, I am one who had visited and had the darshan of all the 12 Jyotir Lingams in my small lifespan of time. Saurashtre Somanathancha, Srishaile Mallikarjunam, Ujjainyam Mahakalam, Omkaram Amaleshwaram. This is the Somanatha Lingam, the first Jyotir Lingam, which is there in Gujarat at Somnath. And the second Jyotir Lingam is the Srishailam, Mallikarjunam. It's called the Mallikarjuna Mahalingam. So Mallikarjuna Mahalingam is very important kshetram among the Jyotir Lingams, where Adi Shankara stayed there and composed this beautiful Shivananda Lakari Stokam in this Mallikarjuna kshetram. The third one is the Ujjainya Mahakalam. Ujjaini, he is Mahakal. The Mahakal is such a powerful god among all the Jyotir Lingams. Every day at 4 in the morning, the Bhasma Harti is performed. The Chita Bhasmam is brought in by Bairagi, and that Chita Bhasmam is smeared all over this Linga. It's just dropped like that. And the entire Bhasma Harti happens every day at 3 o'clock. And he's shown as Mahakal. He's also the Dakshinamurti Rupam or the Jnanadatta. So Ujjainya Mahakalam. Omkara Balameshwaram. Omkaram is the place of Jnana. So this Shiva is manifested as a small linga in Omkara. The Narmada river is flowing through this particular Omkara Kshetram, and all the stones that are washed by this river Narmada turns into Lingakaram, and those are called as Banalingas. It's a very important Kshetram of the Jyotir Lingam, Omkara Malami. Parelyam Vaidyanadhancha Dakanyam Bhimashankaram Setubande to Ramesham Nagesham Dharukavane. This is the Parelyam Vaidyanadhan. It is there in Jharkhand. Such a small linga. Thousands, lakhs and lakhs of people walk hundreds of kilometers carrying the Ganga water from Kashi to this Kshetram. And other places, wherever the Ganga is there, they carry, in the month of Shravan, they carry thousands of kavadis come there to this beautiful Kshetram of Vaidyanadam, Parelyam Vaidyanadam. This is a beautiful Kshetram of Shiva. Dakinyam Bhima Shankaram. Bhima Shankar is again a very beautiful Jyotir Linga Kshetram, which is situated in the beautiful Western Ghats, very close to Pune. And it's a very, very beautiful Kshetram, Bhima Shankaram. Setu Bande to Ramesham. Rameshwaram is the Setu Bandham. That's where Rama connected himself to go to Sri Lanka. And there, that Rama had done the Pradishta of Shiva, and he worshipped the Shiva Linga along with his consort Sita. And that is the Setu Bande to Ramesham. Nagesham Dharukavani. Nagesham is again the Jyotir Lingam, which is very close to Dwaraka. This is a beautiful place. Once it was known as Dharukavanam, and this Nageswaram is also a self-manifested portion of Shiva, which is one among the Jyotir Lingams. Varanasya tu Visvesham, Triambakam Gautami Tate, Himalaye tu Kedaram, Krishnesham cha Shivalaye. Vishveshwara, he is the Lord of the entire universe, and that Vishveshwara resides in the holy city of Kashi, and he is the one who protects the entire world, and that's the Vishveshwara Mahalingam at Kashi. Triambakam Gautami Tate. In this Triambakam, you find the Shiva Linga inside a small pit. There are three small such rounds there inside that. These three rounds represents the Trimurtis, and that is inside a pit, and this can be viewed only through a mirror which is placed there. And after doing the Abhishekas, they have this Kavacha and do the Alankara, and Triambakam is the place where the Gautami or the Godavari is originating. It's a beautiful Kshetram of Shiva there. And finally, the 12th Jyotirlingam is the Himalaya to Kedaram. Himalaya is the place, the coldest abode of Shiva, very close to Kailvas and things like that. He is there in Himalaya as Kedareshwara. What a beautiful Kshetram, Kedareshwaram. Shiva is still there, can be seen even today. It happened a few years back when there was such a big havoc that created there in Himalayas. Except this Kedarnath temple, everything was vanished. That shows the greatest power of Kedareshwara is there in Kedarnath. And finally, the 12th Jyotirlingam is the Krishneshwaram, which is very close to Ellora caves, the Krishnesham cha Shivalaya. And whatever you see in Krishneshwaram is what you see in all the Shivalayas spread across this country, is what it says. This is the sloka of the 12 Jyotirlingams, which is the self-manifested form of Shiva that you find there. Apart from that, you also see him as the Panchabhutas, representing Panchabhutas spread across Tamil Nadu and Andhra. In Kalahasti, he is in the Vayu Rupam. He is known as the Vayu Lingam. In Kalahasti, is Kalahastishwara with his consort Jnana Prasunambika. Shiva, the Linga breathes. That can be seen in all the lamps that are lit around this Shiva Lingam and close to that. Every lamp will keep flickering. So that shows he is in the Vayu Rupam in the Kalahastishwara. He is the Prithvi Kshetram of Kanchipuram, where the Shiva Linga was created with sand by Kamakshi and she was worshipping it. There was a flash flood which came, and Kamakshi immediately went and hugged that Shiva Linga so that it does not be washed away by the flash floods. When she hugged the Shiva Linga, her stanas were impressed on the Shiva Linga, and Shiva came into his original form and married her. So this is the Prithvi Lingam, which is there in Kanchipuram, which was created by Devi Kamakshi and worshipped by her. And that's the Prithvi Kshetram of the Panchabhuta. The next is the Jyotir Kshetram, Agni Rupam of Tiruvannamalai, Arunachaleshwara and Abhita Kuchambika. Here Arunachaleshwara is in the form of the great hill of Arunachala. He is also in the Lingakaram inside the sanctum. The beauty of the Kshetram is that he represents fire. When you enter the sanctum of the Arunachaleshwara, whatever be the temperature outside, this temperature inside the sanctum will be plus few more degrees. Be it the winter or be it the summer, the temperature inside the sanctum is easily felt. You can feel the heat radiating from the Shiva Linga coming and embracing you. So it is always said that when you want to go and have a darshan of Arunachala, you should not wear your shirt or anything, you should go bare chest. Only then you can experience the way in which the energy and the power of Arunachala comes and embraces you. And that is the beautiful Agni Kshetram of Shiva, which is in Arunachala. The Akasha is represented in Chidambaram, Chitakasha Rupam. Nataraja is the one who dances in the space and he controls the entire universe. The Akasha Lingam aspect of Nataraja or Shiva is represented here in the Akasha Lingam or Darshan Ragasyam, which is called in Chidambaram. Here there's empty space, which is worship. The empty space represents Shiva as Akasham. To denote that that is Akasham, a few golden bilva leaves are hung there, and that's the Akash Kshetram of Shiva, which is in Chidambaram. And finally, the Apput Kshetram is the Jambukeshwaram or Tiruvannamalai located in Trichy. Here, Parvati created the Shiva Linga out of the water from Kaveri, and that came to be stayed as the Appulingam of Jambukeshwaram or Tiruvannamalai. Even today, water is seen oozing out from the Linga. It comes from below the Linga. The entire Linga is seen as the representation of Appu Tattvam, that is the water element of it. And this Linga was worshipped by Devi Akilandeshwari, and this forms the Panchabhuta Shiva Linga. So Shiva is represented in the Panchabhuta. Now let's know what is Shiva Linga. What does Shiva Linga look like? When you see the Linga Karam, the Linga will be like this, what you see here. The bottommost portion of the Linga will be square. The mid portion of the Linga will be somewhere about octagonal shape, and the top force will be in the spherical shape. So this is how the Linga is there. This Linga is done the Pradishta down in the ground. The bottom portion, the square portion entirely goes into the ground, and the mid portion stays there. And on top of that mid portion, the Aude, what you call the Yoni Pitam, is inserted from the top. It's inserted from the top and it comes and gets locked into this octagonal shape. And that's how the Shiva Linga is formed, which is the Yoni and the Linga together is what is the Lingakaram. Let's see this. Now, when you see the Shiva inside the sanctum of any temple, it'll be like this. The bottommost portion represents Brahma. The Brahma aspect of Shiva is given here in this bottommost portion, which is in the square form. The mid portion of it represents Vishnu, and it's known as Vishnu Bhagam. And above that Vishnu Bhagam comes the Yoni Pitam, which represents Shakti, the divine aspect of Shakti there. And above that is the Rudra Pitam or Rudra Bhagam, which represents the Shiva Linga. The entire combination of the Trimurtis along with the Yoni Pitam representing Devi is known as the Shiva Linga. And that's what is worshipped as Shiva Shaktaika Swarupam. In olden days, in many of the temples, they never had a separate Sannidhi for Devi. The Shiva itself is considered as Shiva Shaktaika Swarupam, and it was worshipped as Shiva Shaktaika Rupam. And that is the representation of Shiva Linga. Now coming to the earliest Lingam, which is situated in the Gudimallam, and this is one of the earliest surviving representation of Shiva Linga, of Shiva cult in the South India, which dates back to 2nd century BCE. The part of the shaft of the Lingam is part of octagonal, and then as dome-like top structure with pronounced grooves reproduces a realistic head of a male sexual organ. This is a phallic representation of the Lingakara. So this is saying that power, the energy, everything is denoted by this phallic representation. It represents the Purusha or the Shiva alone, without the Yonipitam. It represents the Purusha. And that Purusha is represented here in this particular lingam in the form of a hunter. You can see there, which is also a part of that Lingakaram. So this is the earliest Shiva Linga, which was all worshipped here in this country, which dates back to 2nd century BCE. And this is a very beautiful linga, which is under worship in the temple of Gudimallam, very close to Tirupati. Lingas are of different type. We have lingas seen with faces of Shiva, and such lingas are known as Mukhalingam. There are many such types of Mukhalingams, 1 face, 3 faces, 4 faces, and 5 faces. All these are shown in this linga. What you see is the linga of the Ekapadamorti, which is from the Gupta era of 5th century at the Udayagiri caves in Madhya Pradesh. And this is again the beautiful Shiva face carved out of the Lingakaram here in one of the museums. And this is again a beautiful Shiva Linga with all the 4 faces, and the top 5th face is not shown here, which is just shown as the shaft there. So this is a very early period, Gupta period Shiva Linga, Mukhalingam, which is now in the National Gallery. Again, these Mukhalingas are worshipped everywhere in this country. What you see here is this beautiful Mukhalinga located at the tank of Mahakuta in Karnataka. Again, this is a beautiful Mukhalinga which is under worship at the temple called Tiruvakkarai in Tamil Nadu. And this temple is very famous for its Vakarakaliyamman. And of course, this is a very famous temple for Shiva. And this Shiva is worshipped as Chandra Modisura, and is seen with 3 faces here. And of course, you have the 4 faces of Shiva Linga still under worship in the temple of Pashupatinath in Nepal. So all these Mukhalingas are also under worship in many places across this country. Now, when you say Linga, what is Linga? Linga is just how do we worship Linga? We call this is the Linga Rupam. This is called as Banalinga. That's the Lingakaram is alone there without any base or anything. So this sort of Linga is either a Pratishta of this Linga is done on a Yonipitam and worship, or as such this Linga is worshipped. This is known as Banalinga. This is obtained from the Narmada river at Omkareshwar. And almost all the household, they keep this Banalinga and do the puja. And this is called the Banalinga Rupam. And same Banalinga is also there in Spatika, that is the crystal. And that's also kept in houses and in temples, and the puja is done. So this is a Banalinga of Spatika, which is normally seen in all households for the puja murti. Now you have the greatest of all these Spatika lingas, which is known as the Chandra Modisura, which was given by Shiva himself to Adishankara. And this particular Spatika linga is there in the Sringeri Sharada Peetham. And every day the pujas are offered by the Jagat Gurus in the evening. And this is the beautiful Chandra Modisura Spatika Lingam, which is still under worship in the Sringeri Peetham. And again, you have the Maracata Lingas. The Maracata is just nothing but emerald, opaque and transparent emeralds. The transparent emerald lingam is worshipped in Tiruvarur, and the opaque lingams like this are seen in many of the Saptavidanga Kshetrams and many of the temples all over South India. You have this Maracata Lingam, which is a very, very auspicious one, which is worshipped in many of the temples. So this is the beautiful Maracata Lingam. You have lingas made of different metals, be it brass, silver, or gold. Every such metal gives a different vibrations, and different wishes are fulfilled into this. So lingas are also made in different metals. And finally, the Banalingas or the small lingas are worshipped by people by wearing it all around their neck throughout the day. That is done by the Lingayat community. This is the Banalinga that you see there. They keep it inside a small casket and they wear it around their neck. Every day morning, they carry this linga in their hand and they do the puja, offer it everything, and they again close up this particular casket and wear it around them. And when that person dies, this linga is also buried along with him. So this is a particular sect of people called the Lingaites. They carry the linga around their neck in this sort of a casket all around the day. Done. So this way also the linga is worshipped. Now, when you say the linga, Shiva Lingas are seen as just a shaft, but whenever it is in the temple or at home, the 5 faces of Shiva Linga, Shiva is invoked in the Shiva Linga, and the mantra, which is devoted to this Panchabrahma mantra, is recited, and then the Shiva is worshipped as Sadashiva. It is said, the Padyo Jatam Prapadhyami Sadyo Jata Eva Namaha Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavashyavad Bhavod Bhavaya Namaha. Second one, Vamadeva Yanamo Jeshta Yanama Sreshta Yanamo Rudra Yanama Khala Yanamo Kalavikarana Yanamo Balavikarana Yanamo Balaya Namo Bala Pramadana Yanama Sarva Bhutagamana Yanamo Manonmana Yanamaha. Third one, Aghorebhyo Tagorebhyo Agora Goratarebhya Sarvebhya Sarva Sarvebhyo Namaste Astu Rudra Rupebhya. Fourth one, Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Rudra Prachodayat. Finally, fifth one, Ishana Sharva Vidyanam Ishwara Sharva Bhutanam Brahmatipati Brahmanotipati Brahma Shivobe Astu Sadashivom. This Panchabrahma mantras are recited, and all the 5 faces of Shiva are invoked in this one Shiva Lingam, and he is worshipped as Sadashiva. What is Sadashiva Rupam? Sadashiva is the Rupam of Shiva with 5 faces. He's seen. And the 5 faces have got the 5 different names. The east face is Tatpurusha, and he shines like gold. Agora is the south face, which is normally in black or bluish color. And Satyojata is the face that is facing the west, which is white in color. Vamadeva, which is the north side of Shiva, is seen in saffron color, and it also represents Devi or Shakti. Ishana is the one that is right above the shaft of the linga, and that is like a crystal, and that is prayed for Vidya. So this Parameshwara or Sadashiva is invoked in this lingam, and every temple and every household does the puja of the lingam, invoking the Shiva as Sadashiva, who is there with 5 faces. And this is the Sadashiva Murthy. You can see it in many of the temples. And each of these 5 Sadashiva, 5 faces of Shiva, have got 5 different forms manifested all over. And this, every face has got 5 different faces, 5 different rupams of Shiva emerging out of it. And that's what all put together is 25. And these are called as the Maheshwara Rupam, which you are going to see now. Sadyojatam has got 5 faces, and they are Ardhanari, Lingodbhava, Umasahita Murti, Suhasana, and Shankar Narayana. So these 5 faces form the Sadyojata Murti. Now let's see one by one what it is. Ardhanari is the Shivashaktika Swarupam representing the Purusha and Prakriti in one form. This is a representation of the creation of the universe in the Ardhanari form. Shiva Purana talks about the story of Bringi Maharishi, who was responsible for this Ardhanari form to be developed. Bringi was a rishi who was worshipping Shiva alone. He took the form of a beetle, an insect, and went around Shiva every day. Thrice he circumambulated Shiva and came back. And he did this puja only for Shiva, ignoring Shakti totally. So Shakti was upset. So she said, this man doesn't recognize me, so I should remove all his energy So Shakti takes away all the energy from him and he becomes very weak, and Shiva gives him the third leg. Again, he becomes very, Shakti is upset and she takes further the energy out of him. And again, he was given a stick. Even then, the Bringi did not realize. Then Shiva wanted to teach Bringi the lesson that there is no difference between Shiva and Parvati. He took the Ardanari Shura and stood before Bringi Maharishi, where he could not do anything, and he accepted Shiva and Shakti as one, and that's what is represented as the Ardhanari Shura, and that's the beautiful Ardhanari Shura Swami temple at Tiruchengode, which is there very close to Erode, and it's between Erode and Salem. It's a beautiful temple dedicated to Ardhanari Shura Shiva, which you see there, and this is the beautiful Ardhanari Shura seen with 4 arms, which is unusual, again a Chola marvel which is created. And this is the beautiful Ardhanari Shura, which seen with 2 arms from the Mahakuta temple at Karnataka. Again, this is a beautiful Ardhanari Shura form representation seen from the temple of Orissa at Vaital Valley. And this is from the temple of Khajuraho, Ardhanari Shura. Now, coming to Ardhanari Shura, there's a beautiful bronze of Ardhanari Shura in Chennai Museum from Tiruvannamalai. What a beautiful Murthy of Ardhanari Shura as seen here by the Cholas, created by the Cholas. Absolutely a stunning Murthy. You can see the clear demarcation of the Parvati aspect and the Shiva aspect in the face and all the features of this. Be it the hairstyle, the jewelry, or the way in the position they are standing, the dress, everything. It's very beautifully, clearly demarcated and very beautifully executed bronze. Amazing bronze that is there in the display at the Chennai Museum. The Ardhanari Shura is seen like this in Tiruchengode. When you go to Tiruchengode and see the sanctum, the Ardhanari Shura will be something like this. You cannot make out the aspect of Ardhanari Shura because the sari and this, the dhoti are tied together, and this is a self-manifested form which does not have the clarity in all the features, and he's seen standing like this. One side they apply the vibhuti and one side they keep it dark. At times one side they apply the turmeric powder and keep the vibhuti on one side and things like that. They do the different alakaras, and this is the Ardhanari Shura as seen in the Tiruchengode temple, which is still under the worship for Thejas. And this is the beautiful Utsav Murthy of the same Ardhanari Shura temple at Tiruchengode. What a beautiful depiction of Ardhanari Shura. Shiva holding a danda, Parvati standing elegantly with her hand on her hip. What a beautifully done, beautiful bronze of Tiruchengode. Now we come to the next form, Lingodbhava. This is the form of Shiva which stood like a shaft, and we have seen about the story a little back also, where Brahma and Vishnu went to see the head and the foot. And this form is the representation of the highest power and the mightiest power of Shiva. And he's seen as the Lingodbhava. In many of the temples, you see the rear wall of the temple of Shiva temple always has this image of Lingodbhava there. And Lingodbhava is seen in sculptural form in many of the temples. This is the beautiful Lingodbhava form that is seen from the Kanchi Kailashnatha temple. And this is the beautiful Lingodbhava form from the temple of Tirumayam. And this is a rock-cut temple. You see the Shiva alone. There's no representation of Brahma or Vishnu. He's just the shaft of fire which is shown here as Lingodbhava in the temple. And this is the beautiful Lingodbhava from the Tiruvannamalai temple, which shows that he is a shaft of fire. You can see the fire all around Brahma and Vishnu here also. This is the Lingodbhava. Tiruvannamalai is the Kshetram where Shiva stood in the form of Linga, and the entire hill of Tiruvannamalai, Arunachala, is said to be a Lingodbhava form, and that represents the heat, represents the shaft of fire. That's why Shiva there in the sanctum is Agni Rupam, and the Lingodbhavam happened at Tiruvannamalai. Next comes the Uma Sahita Murti. Uma Sahita Murti, Shakti aspect of Shiva. Uma is considered as his consort. Uma is the representation of Jnana, and she's the embodiment of Karunya aspect of Shiva. So Shiva and Shakti are inseparable, just as the word and the meaning as explained by Kalidasa. This form of Shiva is a representation of Karunya aspect of Shiva with Shakti. He is seen in a happy mood with Shiva, with Parvati. This form of Shiva as Umasahita Murti is seen in the sculptural representation in many of the temples around this country. Look at that. One of the most beautiful Umasahita Murti is seen in one of the temples from Madhya Pradesh. There's again a Umasahita Murti from Odisha. And this is again one of the Pala regions, Umasahita Murti. So this Umasahita Murti's representation is seen in all over the temples of India. Pan India, you can see them beautifully represented in the sculptural format. Sukasanamurti. Shiva seated alone on a pedestal with one leg folded and the other one hung down is known as Sukasana. One hand, right hand giving Abhaya and left hand giving the Karna Mudra. What does it mean, Shiva standing, sitting alone? This posture of Shiva is attributed to the way in which Shiva, when Uma Devi wanted to know about the meanings of Vedas and Agamas, Shiva sits very happily in this form in the Himalayas, sits in his Sukasana and starts to explain the meaning of these things. So that particular posture of Shiva seated in Sukasana is known as Sukasanamurti. You see the Sukasanamurti representations in bronze form and also in the sculptural forms in many of the temples. And you can see the Sukasanamurtis there in many of the temples, mostly in the bronze form is shown here. The next one is Shankar Narayana. This form of Shiva and Vishnu in one is known as Harihara or Ardhanari, whatever you call it. The left portion represents Vishnu and the right portion represents Shiva. This is to make people understand that Shiva and Vishnu are one and the same, and there is no difference between Shiva and Vishnu. They are one and the same. There's a Puranic story connected with this, and that happened in the temple of Shankaran Koil, where Shiva is there as Shankar Narayana in that temple. There were two asuras, one is known as Shanka, another one as Padma. One was a Shiva Bhakta, another one was a Vishnu Bhakta. They both always kept fighting with each other as to who is the great. And Parvati, on seeing this, she also had a doubt as to know who is great among Shiva and Vishnu. So she asked Shiva to tell him who is great. So Shiva tells her, Parvati, to go and do a tapas in a vana, and he will come there and give him the answer, give her the answer. So Parvati does the tapas, which is done at the Shankaran Koil, that's called the Gomatiyaman tapas. And finally, on the Paurnami day, Shiva appears before Devi as Shankara Narayana and blesses her. So that is the story of Shankaran Koil, where the Ardhanari or Shankar Narayana Harihara Murti is worshipped as the main god there. And Devi Gomati is also worshipped there as the Mahashakti Rupam. And this Rupam of Harihara is seen in many of the temples all over this pan-India, and especially in Karnataka, you have plenty of temples. This is from the Shankar Narayana temple, which is there near Udupi. And you have many of the images in Harihar and other places. This is again the Shankar Narayana in the Shankar Narayana temple near Udupi. And you have the same image of Shankar Narayana in silver worshipped under the temple. And this is the Shankar Narayana inside the Mulasthanam of the Shankaran Koil. And this is Devi Gomati, Parvati, who did the tapas, standing on one leg and holding up her hands above. She did the tapas to gain the beautiful darshan of Shiva and Vishnu as one form known as Shankar Narayana. With this, we come to the next Rupam of Shiva, which is known as Vamadevarupam. In this Vamadevarupam, we have again 5 Murtis: Gangala, Chandesha Anugraha, Chakradana, Ekapadamorti, and Ganesha Murthy. So Gangala Murti, this is what is Gangala Murti. This form of Shiva, he took this form after slaying the Virat Rupam of Vishnu, who came as Vamana and took the Virat Rupam of Trivikrama and Mahabali was killed there. So he became very furious. Vishnu, when he became Virat Rupam, he became very furious, and Shiva took this form of Gangala, killed him, and took his spinal cord and went around the world with that. So that is known as Gangala Murti. He carries a staff, which the staff is tied along with the spinal cord of the Vishnu Murti, which is known as the Gangala. And all the bones and feathers of the Virat Rupam is tied up to this Gangala. And with this Gangala holding on his shoulder, he goes around the world striking his damaru and going around the world announcing that he is great. So this is known as the Gangala Rupam or Gangala Murti. Lot of people mistake this Gangala Murti to be that of Bhikshadana. The difference is that Bhikshadana goes as a Nagna and he holds the begging bowl and goes here, whereas Gangala Murti goes beating the drum, holding the staff right behind. And in that staff, you will have all these feathers hanging, and that's the Gangala Murti. Gangala Murti is beautifully dressed and he goes around the world. So this is, it's no point to mistake with this Gangala Murti with Bhikshadana. A lot of Gangala Murti representations, many of the temples. This is what you see from the Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple. Again, this is a fantastic representation of Gangala Murti from a temple called Kamarasavalli in Nariyalur district. And this is a beautiful Gangala Murti. Look at this. In this particular sculpture, the Gangala is represented as Vamana Rupam. It's the Virat Rupam of Vishnu itself is represented here as Gangala. Instead of that bone, the entire Vishnu Rupam is represented here as Gangala, and it's one of the most beautiful Gangala Murti that you could see here. And then comes to the Chandesha Nagra Murti. A beautiful sculpture of this Chandesha Nagra Murti is seen here in the Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The Shiva, as the Karuna Murti, recognizes his Bhakta for his devotion and gives him the very big honor of being the Chandesha of all the Shiva Ganas. The story of Ishara Sharman, and who had a deep devotion of Shiva, and his Shiva Bhakti was recognized, is what is represented here in this beautiful sculpture of the Chandesha Nagra Murti. You have the entire sculpture of the story there. Vishara Sharman was a person who was engaged in taking the cow herds to the fields and every day grazing the cows there. He was a great Shiva Bhakta. So he used, when he took the cow used to give double the quantity of milk. So he used to take the extra milk and do the Shiva Puja. So somebody complained about this aspect to his father, and his father came there and saw this Vishara Sharman doing the Shiva Puja. Immediately, he kicked the pot of milk with his leg. Vishara Sharman was so engaged in his puja, he did not see whether it was his father or anybody. He just picked up an axe and threw it there. The leg of his father was cut and he fell down dead. Even then, he continued on to this puja. So Shiva was pleased by his devotion and he honored him by giving the Chandesha Padavi, by tying a flower garland around his head. And that's the Chandesha. This Chandesha is the Pradhana Devata in all the Shiva temples, who's there in the north side of the Shiva temple. And everyone who goes to the Shiva temple silently goes and offers their prayer to the Shiva. Now you find people clapping their hands, making all sounds, and then writing something and all that. That's not the way. He is in dhyana. So you go and respect this dhyana and come back. So he is the one who accounts for your visit for the Shiva temple. So that is Chandesha, Anugraha Murthy. A beautiful sculpture of that is seen also in one of the old temples of Chola. And this is that. Poundarikapuram. Next comes the Chakradara Murthy. When Shiva destroyed Jalandhasura, he got this chakra. And this chakra, he gave it to Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu was given the chakra by Shiva, and that rupam of giving the chakra to Mahavishnu is known as Chakradara Murthy. Mahavishnu used to pray to Shiva every day with 1,000 lotus flowers, by offering 1,000 lotus flowers. One day when he was doing this prayer, there were only 999 flowers and one flower was missing. Immediately, Mahavishnu scooped out his one eye and offered it as the flower in the feet of Shiva. Then Shiva was so pleased that he appeared before him and he presented the chakra to him. And that's why the Sudarshana chakra came to Mahavishnu. And that is the beautiful Chakradara Murthy representation that you see from the temple of Tanjavur sculpture. And this particular incident happened in the place called Tiruvannamalai in Tamil Nadu. And this is the beautiful Mapla Swami in the temple. You see this beautiful bronze idol. At the foot of that Mapla Swami, you'll find one flower. Below that flower is the eye, which was given by Mahavishnu. At the foot of Shiva is seen there. And this is the Chakradara Murthy, bronze, which is known as Mapla Swami there. And this Shiva, giving the chakra to Mahavishnu, is also again available in the bronze form in the temple. And this is a very beautiful temple for Chakradara Murthy. Next is Ekapadamorti. During the Mahapralaya, where everything was destroyed and Shiva came with devotion, many people came and surrendered to Shiva with devotion at his holy feet. And that time Shiva stood there tall with 1 foot for everybody to come and surround around it. And that is called as the Ekapadamorti. At the same time, when Shiva stood as Ekapadamorti, Brahma and Vishnu also came and surrendered themselves to this. So there you have the three Murtis also together as Ekapadamorti. So this is Ekapadamorti which you saw now. And this is again the Ekapadamorti from one of the temples from Orissa. And here you find the Ekapada Trimurti. Shiva standing with one leg, Brahma on one side and Vishnu also coming and surrendering at the pada of Shiva. And here you have a very beautiful sculpture. This Murti is also called as Ekapadamorti. At times it's also called Ekapada Trimurti or Tripada Trimurti. You have the three padams also there. So this is a beautiful image of Shiva which is worshipped in the Tiruvannamalai temple. And this is a very beautiful form of Shiva which forms one of the Maheshwara Rupam. Next is the Ganesha Prasada Murti. Ganesha Prasada Murti does not find much of a reference in many of the scriptures or anything. Parvati created a boy to guard her when she went to bath, and that was slayed by Shiva. And when Parvati came and pleaded again, Shiva gave him with the elephant face and brought him back to life, and then he was accepted as a child by Shiva. So that blessing of Shiva by giving the elephant's head to that boy is known as Ganesha Prasada Murti. Here, this form is hardly represented in the sculptural form in any of the temples, and you can really not see, except one temple of Madurai. In that Pudumandapam, you have a Ganesha Prasada Murti. But this Murti is not there, because Ganesha is always connected with Parvati. And even in a sloka say, we say Umasutam Soka Vinasha Karanam. So Ganesha is always identified as Parvati Putra. And that's why we don't find much of this representation. But however, you have a beautiful Ravi Verma painting of olden days painting of Ganesha Prasada Murti here in this. Coming to the next Murti, we come to the Agora face, the third face of Shiva, which you see here. It's represented by Gatsamhara, Kirata, Dakshinamurti, Vishapaharana, and Veerabhadra. Now, Maharamurti is one form of Shiva who gets the name after killing the demon in the form of Gaja. So Shiva enters to the stomach of Gajasura, tears his skin and comes out victoriously, and that form of Shiva emerging out of the Gajasura Samhara is known as Gatsamharamurti, and that act of Shiva is known as Virat Ishwara Swami, and Shiva performs 8 such great feats of killing demons, and this is one among that, Gajasamhara. This form of Shiva is seen in the sculptural representation in almost all the Shiva temples, and there's a beautiful temple for this beautiful Gajasamharamurti located at Valluvur in near Mailaduthurai, where a beautiful bronze image of Gajasamharamurti is still under worship. It's one of the amazing and the wonderful bronze that is still available in this country. Kirata Murti is again a form of Shiva who came as a form of hunter. And Puranas talk about this Kirata Rupam of Shiva in many aspects. The first Kirata Rupam of Shiva is dealt in Mahabharata very elaborately. Shiva came in the form of a hunter to give Pashupata to Arjuna who prayed for it. When he came as a hunter, he fought with Arjuna, transferred all the energies to Arjuna and gave him the Pashupata to him. So that is the Kirata Rupam of Shiva, and Bharavi wrote a beautiful treatise on Kirata Arjuniyam also. So that form of Shiva who came as a hunter is known as Kirata. Kirata also happens in another time when the Pralaya Kala was there. A pot of nectar was set on the sailing on the waters. So it was inside a kumbha, and that was floating in the waters. Shiva appeared as a Kirata and shot an arrow at the pot of the kumbha which contained the nectar. And thereby, the complete creation started again after the Pralaya. And that particular instance happened in Kumbakonam. Even in Kumbakonam, Kumbeshwara Swami temple, you have a Kirata Rupam of Shiva being worshipped there. Apart from that, the Mahadeva temple at Vakyam, also the Shiva Linga is worshipped as Kirata Rupam every day during the noon time. And this is the beautiful Kirata Arjuniya Rupam. When Shiva came as a Kirata for Arjuna's sake, this is beautiful bronze of Chola period, which is under worship in a temple called Tiruvannamalai, very, very close to Chidambaram, where Annamalai University is located. This is a beautiful bronze under worship in this beautiful Tiruvannamalai temple. And this is the beautiful lithograph print of Ravi Verma showing Shiva as Kirata. And this not only happened for the Puranas, even for an Adiyar like Sundaramurti Nayanar, Shiva came as a Kirata. Sundaramurti Nayanar carried with him a lot of money and jewels that were given by Cheraman Peruman to his different places. So at that time, Shiva wanted to teach a lesson. He sent his Bhutaganas to chase him and go and like thieves to steal that. So the Bhutaganas went there and stole all the entire jewelry and cash, whatsoever, gold and everything, whatever Sundaramurti Nayanar came. So Shiva prays to Shiva, the Sundaramurti Nayanar prays to Shiva, and Shiva appeared there as Kirata and chased away all these thieves and gave back the money to Sundaramurti Nayanar. This happened in a temple very close to our place, Avinashi. And there in this Avinashi temple, Shiva is being worshipped as Kirata Murti. And this is the beautiful Kirata Murti, which is under worship in the temple of Avinashi. Next is Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is the greatest guru. He is the guru of the ultimate knowledge. This form of represents the yoga, music, wisdom, and shastras in all these aspects. And his manifestation is benevolent teacher who accords wisdom to all the seekers of salvation. And he is in Maunam. Maunam Yakya Prakritita Parabrahmatattvam Yuvanam. So he is transferring all this knowledge in Mauna, and that Mauna is known as Paravak, and this cannot be heard with the physical ears. And that's the beautiful representation of Dakshinamurti, who's seated under the Vatavriksha, symbolizing Jnana, is seen in many of the temples as the south-facing god. This is the beautiful Dakshinamurti that you see from the temple of Avur. And this is again from the temple of Dharasuram. Vishapaharana or Nilakanta. Shiva is Vishapaharana, who is the savior of the world, who took the bad things to him and gave the good things to the people or the subjects. When the Kshirasagara Madanam happened, the first thing that emerged out of the Kshirasagara Madanam was the Visha, the Alahala. So Shiva took that Alahala and drank it by himself. So when he drank this, Parvati runs there and keeps her hand at the throat, and the entire Alahala Visha, poison, stays in his throat and it turns blue in color. That's why Shiva gets the name Nilakanta. So Nilakanta is again one more form of the Maheshwara Rupam. He is known as Vishapaharana. And this Vishapaharana is also worshipped in the bronze forms in many temples. Here you can see this one of the earliest Pallava bronze of Vishapaharana, where Shiva is holding the Alahala Visham in one hand, and one hand, to show that it's poison, is holding a snake here. So Vishapaharana Nilakanta is again the form of the great Maheshwara Rupam. Next comes the Virabhadra. Virabhadra is considered as a Shivamsa and also a Shiva Avatara. When Sati Devi immolated herself in the Daksha Yaga, Shiva pulls out a hair or a jata and throws it on the ground, and there emerges the Virabhadra. And that Virabhadra was given the command to go and destroy the Daksha, which he did it and emerged victoriously. He is also known as the Colossal Maharamurti. And when you see here the sculpture of Virabhadra, you have the Virabhadra here, the huge sword, and the Daksha was later given a head of a goat is also seen here. The Daksha's slain head is also seen along with the shield of the Virabhadra here. So Virabhadra is he is also considered as the predominant deity by many of the, and there are many forms of Virabhadra. You see as Agora Virabhadra, Agni Virabhadra, and different types of Virabhadras are seen. This is from our Peru, Agora Virabhadra, again the Agni Virabhadra, and you have this beautiful Virabhadra bronze image, Utsamurti, which is under worship in the temple of Parasalur, which is one of the Viratara Kshetrams. Here is Virabhadra, a beautiful bronze of Virabhadra under worship there. And here, the Virasaiva cult people have great regards for Virabhadra, and their predominant deity is Virabhadra, and they worship Shiva in the form of Virabhadra. And many such temples are seen in this, particularly in the Karnataka region, especially the Bellary, Anantapur district region. You find a lot of these temples dedicated to Virabhadra. And Lepakshi has got one of such beautiful temples dedicated to Virabhadra. Next we come to Tatpurusha Rupam. Tatpurusha's face of Shiva has got again the 5 different forms of Shiva are there in Tatpurusha. They are Bhikshadana, Kalasamhara, Tripurantaka, Kamadahana, and Jalandaravada. Bhikshadana is the beautiful form of Shiva who went out naked with a begging bowl to the streets of Dwarukavanam to teach the Rishipatnis and Rishis who were deeply immersed in Mimamsa. When he went there, all the Rishipatnis went behind him, looking, admiring his beauty. So that is the beautiful form of Shiva who went there to Dwarukavanam as Bhikshadana. He is seen in the beautiful form as bronze images and under worship. This is the beautiful bronze of Bhikshadana form of Shiva, which is under worship in the Vazhavur temple, where the naked form of Shiva is walking through the streets of Dwarkavanam, and the deer follows him, and the Gana is also carrying the Bhikshapatram and goes along. He is also seen with the Bhikshapatram, and that's the beautiful form of Bhikshadana which happened there. And a lot of Shiva temples do have this beautiful form of Bhikshadana bronze, which is under worship, and they are also a part of the processional deities during the Brahmotsavams that happens. That is Pichandar Tiruvizha, they call it in Tamil. There's another story of Bhikshadana. When Shiva slayed the Brahma's fifth head, that skull got stuck to his hand and it never went away. And Shiva he started begging for his food, and everybody offered the food into that begging bowl, and that was not satisfying Shiva. Finally, Shiva went begging around the streets of Kashi. When he went there into Kashi, begging for food, Annapurna Devi came there and gave him the food offered into this begging bowl, and that was full, and that begging bowl vanished from his hands, and that is also called as a Bhikshadana Rupam of Shiva. And this is a beautiful golden idol of Annapurni and the silver idol of Shiva as Bhikshadana, still under worship in the temple of Kashi. And you can see this image being brought out on the Deepavali day. The Colossal Maharamurti, Shiva, the most compassionate when it comes to his bhakta, he is the first to come and help him. When Markandeya was about to leave this world with the news of Yama, Shiva came there, did the Kalasamhara and saved Markandeya and gave him his good life. And that is the Colossal Maharamurti. We all know about the story of this Colossal Maharamurti. He is there in this form of sculptural representation in many of the temples. You see this beautiful representation of Colossal Maharamurti is seen there in this form in the Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple. Again, you see him in the Brihadishwara temple at Tanjavur. The sculpture itself explains how Markandeya is tying to the lingam and Yama is trying to put the noose on them, and how Shiva kicks Yama and kills him. And because Bhumi Devi requested Shiva that Yama should come back to life, otherwise the death will not happen and she cannot bear the weight of the Bhumi. So Shiva gives Yama the life back again. And that's the beautiful thing which happened in the temple of Tirukkadayur, where the Colossal Maharamurti is there. And even today, this Colossal Maharamurti is worshipped, and it's one of the greatest temples of Tamil Nadu, where Colossal Maharamurti is worshipped in the bronze form here. Next, we come to Tripurantaka. Tripurantaka is a form of Shiva that burned the three Asuras, Tarakaksha, Kamalaksha, and Vidyutmali, who were orbiting in the field in this world with the three forts made of gold, silver, and iron. Shiva is the victor of the three Asuras, is known as Tripurantaka, and Shiva's bow and arrow is the one which destroyed the Maya and gave knowledge to everybody. That's the inner meaning of Tripurantaka. He's seen in the sculptural form in many of the temples. This is the beautiful Tripurantaka form that is seen in the Chidambaram Temple. Again, you have Tripurantaka in bronze form as Utsav-murti worshipped in many of the temples. Normally in those days, the seventh day of the festival, whenever the chariot festival used to be going around with the temple Brahmotsavam, Tripurantaka image was taken in the chariot to bring out that Shiva moved in the chariot. So that is beautiful Tripurantaka bronze. And you have the Tripura Samhara aspect which happened in the temple called Tiruvadigai, very near to Panroti. This is a beautiful temple of Pallava origin. And here, this beautiful image of Tripurantaka is worshipped as the Samharamurti in this temple. Next, we come to Kamadahanamurti. Kamadahanamurti is again a Samharamurti of Shiva, where Shiva burnt Kama, who threw the arrows on Shiva, disturbing his beautiful tapas that he was doing in Himalayas. Kama had to do this under the pressure of the Devas for the birth of Kumara to happen. So Kama was burnt, and again Rati prayed back to Shiva, and Kama was given back the life, and he could be recognized only by Rati. So the Kamadahana Murti is one that Shiva is the one who destroys the lust in the body, in us. So he is Kamadahana Murti, seen in sculptural form in many of the temples all over this country, and he is worshipped in the bronze form in the temple called Tirukkurukkai, very close to Mayiladuthurai. Here, Shiva is seated here with one leg folded, and that is the Kamadahana Murti, and Parvati is there by the side. And this happened in the place called Tirukkurukkai, and this Kurkai Murti is one of the Ashtavirata Kshetrams, and he is worshipped here as the Maharamurti in Tirukkurukkai, in as Kamadahana Murti. Jalandhara Murti. Again, Jalandhara was an Asura who was born out of the sweat of Shiva. He was, he even defeated Mahavishnu. So everybody was scared, and Jalandhara went to Kailash to challenge Shiva. Shiva at that time, right in front of Jalandhara, he came in the disguise of an old man. And he said, "Where are you going?" Jalandhara said, "I'm going to challenge Shiva." He said, "You cannot do any damn thing." So immediately Jalandhara gets, "What do you mean? I can kill anybody," he says. So this man, old man, gives him a small, a competition. He says, he draws a circle on the ground, and he says, "If you can try to lift the circle, it's fine. I can appreciate that you have got strength." So immediately Jalandhara lifts that circle, and as he takes it above his head, that circle that he had taken out of the ground turns into a beautiful chakra and comes straight on his head and splits him into two, and Jalandhara Vada takes place. This happened in a place called Tiruvirkudi, and this is also one among the Ashtavirata Kshetrams, and that is what you see as Jalandhara Vada Murti in this temple. The last face of Shiva is the Ishana Murti, which has got the 5 faces of Nataraja, Kalyana Sundara, Chandrasekhara, Somaskanda, and Rishabharuda. Nataraja, or the Nritya Murti, is very well known to us. Nataraja is the ultimate form of Shiva, representing the Panchakrityas. He is the representation of the universe in action. So Nataraja Murti we see in all the temples. We all know more about Nataraja Murti. Now coming to Kalyana Sundara. Shiva is an embodiment of love, and he advocates the value of good married life for his devotees. And that's why he represents this form of Kalyana Sundara in many of the temples. This form of Shiva and Parvati in marriage brings in the good qualities for the couple to lead a good life. Shiva is seen such in this posture in many places, and this is one of the beautiful images, a sculptural image of Shiva as Kalyana Sundara from the Elephanta caves. You have the sculptural images in many of the temples. This is from the temple of Chidambaram, where Shiva is getting married to Parvati. And here you find Mahavishnu offering this marriage here to Parvati to Shiva. And here you have Brahma seated below, officiating as the priest for this entire marriage. You have those beautiful bronzes also under worship in many of the temples. This was one of the earliest and the most outstanding bronze images of Kalyana Sundara Murti from Vadakalathur, which is now in the safe custody. One of the most beautiful images that you can ever see in bronze. You have again this Kalyana Sundara Murti, very beautifully represented the bronze form in the place called Tiruvannamalai. Next form of Shiva is Chandrasekhara. This form of Shiva is to portray that anybody who surrenders at the feet of Shiva are given the highest position or taken right up to the head level. There's a story, Daksha had 27 daughters of Daksha were married to Chandra. This Chandra or the moon was very, very close to one particular wife alone called Rohini, and this infuriated the others. So all of them went and complained to Daksha, and Daksha gave a curse to Chandra that he should wane away. So Chandra goes to Surya and prays to him, and when he goes there, he is in the crescent moon form, Perait Chandra, the third day, crescent moon. So Chandra lifts that moon and places it on his head and says that he will take care. So that's way he is known as Chandrasekhara. When he took the moon and had it worn around his head, he is known as Chandrasekhara. There are different Chandrasekhara Murtis, like Kevala Chandrasekhara Murti, Uma with Uma is seen with the concert Uma, and he is also seen in Alingana form. Here what you see is the Chandrasekhara Murti, a Kevala Chandrasekhara Murti image from the big temple of Tanjavur. And here you see the beautiful bronze of Chandrasekhara Murti, again from the temple. And he is also seen as Alingana Chandrasekhara Murti, hugging on to his Uma very gently. And this particular Murti is what is brought out from in all the temples during the Pradosha time and taken around the temple. So he is also known as the Pradosha Murti. Somaskanda Murti. Sa Uma Skanda Murti is known as Somaskanda. Sa Uma means being with Uma and Skanda. So he portrays Shiva as a beautiful family man, a loving husband, and a caring father. He is a happily married man, showering his divine grace to all his devotees. Somaskanda image in bronze is seen in all the Shiva temples, and he is one of the greatest Anugraha Murtis that you see here. This is the bronze image of Somaskanda that you could see in all the Shiva temples. The next and the final Murti that comes here is the Rishabha Ruda. Vahana of Shiva is known as Rishabha. Shiva and Parvati are seated on this mount of Rishabha, known as Rishabha Ruda Murti. Lot of people mistake this with Nandi. There's a lot of Nandi is one of the commandant of the Shiva's Ganas. Rishabha is his vehicle. When Shiva comes on top of the Rishabha, he is known as Rishabha Ruda. Whenever Shiva had to come to do an anugraham to his devotee, he always used to come with this Parvati concert, seated on a Rishabha. So that's what you see in all the temple sculptures everywhere, Rishabha Ruda. And this Somaskanda Murti is normally brought out on top of the Rishabha mount during festivals. This is there in sculptural form, and you can have a beautiful form of this in the pictorial form with many of the houses. Everybody has this particular picture of Shiva as Parvati in Rishabha as one of their puja items. Every day, puja, they have it. And you can see it in the festivals where Shiva and Parvati, seated on the beautiful Vahana, are brought out in procession as Rishabha Ruda. And all now we have seen this 25 forms. These 25 forms together, they constitute a form of Shiva known as Sadashiva Murti. And this Sadashiva Murti sculptural form is seen in many of the temples. And this is one on what you see here is from the temple of Suchindram. In this form, Shiva has represented with 25 faces, 50 arms, and so on. And this form of Shiva is considered as the greatest form of Shiva, and that's worshipped in many of the temples. Understanding Shiva is an experience by itself. There are so many forms of Shiva. It's not only these 25 forms or rupams that constitute Shiva. It is said that he has got 64 forms, and every form of Shiva has got different rupams also. If you take for Bhairava, for example, there are 64 Bhairava Rupams also. Shiva is known as Murthy, 64 Rupams. Apart from that, many other Rupams are there. So all these Rupams are there, different forms of sculpture, paintings and things like that. In Shiva Purana deals very well with this. It's very, very difficult to understand Shiva in such a small time and the words to explain them. Shiva Parakrama is something very great. This presentation is my Shivarpanam. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you. And I can take any questions if you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guru. It is wonderful as usual. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Thank you.
Guru,